Hi guys, quick update here for YouTube. It's now the 9th of August 2024, Friday. Not financial advice, educational purposes. Before we start, if you want to join the group, everything's here. Various educational courses as well as the mortgage course. And if you want to pay via crypto, just message me through the Facebook page. Now, obviously, we've been quite bearish on the stock market, and by the stock market, I'm largely speaking for big cap tech here, NASDAQ and the SPY on the index level. I completely understand certain stocks are going up, defensive plays and utilities and staples perhaps. That's not the point. Most people are positioned in big cap tech. So when I use the word stock market, I'm largely defining the ES, SPY, and the SPX, which are effectively the same thing, plus or minus the Qs, the IXIC, as well as the NASDAQ futures, right? So it's the NASDAQ and it's the SPY ETF or the S&P 500, okay? Obviously, the ES is the futures contract. Now, recently we've been quite bearish. That was a 20x move in put options there. Anyone who went bearish here, frankly, we've been bearish for the last 3 weeks, ever since this top. To me, the biggest problem here with any market right now, Bitcoin too, is the fact that the ES has formed a real high. And none of these previous highs, as far as I'm concerned, have been real high. So that in itself is a cause for concern. This was not a real high. This definitely wasn't a real high. And this 100% was not a real high. I'm not able to go back as far as this, but I know at the time it wasn't. And obviously I can't go back on the half an hour chart 6 years ago, but I know for a fact these two highs were not real high. So that is the first cause for concern. This is a real high. So still, the idea that the yearly top is in, as we said 3 weeks ago, is in. The yearly top is in. So anything that the ES does, as we said on the last video when it was here, it doesn't matter. It's coming down. Even now, it's coming down. That definitely is a three-wave correction, 100%. But guess what? That might just be an A or a W. Probably is. So anything that's going on here is just another bear flag or a correction. Could be an X wave, could be a B wave. It doesn't matter. I think there's another flush. Now, on the next flush, obviously we will reassess the situation looking to get long. But there's another one of these. Things usually occur in threes here. There's a flush down, correction, flush, right? So it's two flush and a sideways correction. Obviously, we've already had all of that here, as you can see, right? Flush, correction, flush. However, that three wave is part of a larger three wave, right? I mean, you could argue even all of that is part of a larger three wave, but I don't think so. I think on the next big flush down, anything like this, like a good 600-700 point down move, that will be the time to buy. But as you can see, we're pushing it on into Labor Day here. This is not going to, just get bullish overnight. I don't think this S&P is making a new high this year, right? And if I thought differently, I would obviously say that. And we've seen fractals here. I mean, you can take any fractal you want. You may as well just copy and paste all of this, right? They are awfully convincing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not here, I'm not going to say that there wasn't money to be made here buying Solana at 110 and selling at 150. Obviously there is, right? You get some huge rallies. Not the point. The top was already in, and we call that top too. But look how convincing these rallies are. This is a sell the rip market until further notice. Okay, so yearly top is in. We're looking at this to have one more big flush down. Short term, today's Friday, probably not much is going to happen. But frankly, I just think we're building up the cause for the next move down. I'm not convinced the yen carry trade issue is over. Obviously, we were converting pounds into yen because we know how to read a chart. Half the group were in Japan over here as the Japan currency was then strengthening. And obviously, recently, we've changed that. It's bounced off the value area high. But that's not it. I mean, to say this, that's impossible. The pound yen, the dollar yen, all their highs are already in, which means much like the S&P, this carry trade issue, surely it's not over. There's another big flush down. I still think that goes to 160 against the pound. Now, going back to the ES, well, nothing to go back to. With the yearly top is in, it's forming a correction. I don't think it's a buy the dip market, and if it is, it's completely short term. Overall, the market is leaning lower, and we're looking for the next flush down, which, as I've said, likely will take out 5k, and also more than likely will take this out too, and will probably take out the yearly open too, which, as you can see, is pretty much there, right? So it's quite clear this this yearly candle is going to at least, short term or on some level is going to end up becoming red. Okay, obviously it could break below that at some point, then reclaim, then do something like this. I'm not saying that it can't. All I'm saying is at some point this year, this candle is going to become red. How is that possible? It has to break 4818. I think as a minimum, that's getting taken out. And you can also see it here. I mean, if it's like some kind of zigzag going, well, I mean, it's not a zigzag, I suppose. It's a double zigzag. So in effect, it's a WXY, right? So it's an ABC zigzag. 535 into a larger W, then the X, right? So it's kind of like two zigzags on top of each other, right? That's two zigzags into here. So 535 ABC into a W, X, Y. You can easily see why that is the target. Then interestingly, there's a gap here. I've not seen this gap before. Let's just investigate this. Why is there a gap there? Is that a Sunday to Monday? Monday to Tuesday? That's very odd. That should never happen. So we need to investigate this. Let's just do a live investigation right here, right? Everything you want to know is in front of you on the charts. Why was there a gap? That could not have been a bank holiday. Okay, so let's investigate. Let's go on the 1 hourly chart. Why is there a gap there? You don't usually get gaps in a 24-hour market. Obviously you don't. Right. Let's just investigate here. Okay, we're on Eastern time here. Yeah, we're on Eastern time. It's 8:26 Eastern time here, which means that was the 1 hour gap that you get on the ES when it closes at 10 p.m. London or 5 p.m. Eastern time. So that is a huge gap. That is basically the 1 hour closing session. That was not a Friday night to Sunday night gap. So interesting. We found some more information here. I don't think it gets down that low, but that's very, very, very interesting. There's a gigantic gap here. Usually you would never get a gap like this, and if you do, it would immediately get filled, which it didn't, as you can see. Starts at 6 o'clock. That closes at 5. Between 5 to 6, obviously, for rebalancing purposes, the ES is closed for 1 hour. Why do we have a huge gap here? That is a gigantic gap. I don't think I've ever seen a gap that big on the ES on an intraday basis. That is ridiculous. That is a 134 tick gap there. Anyway, worst case scenario, we're going to fill this gap, right? So, and we discuss all of this on the masterclass. For those who don't understand what the ES is, the ES basically leads the entire S&P. That is one hell of a crash. If we get down there, that is a huge buying opportunity. So that's the ES. Or the S&P, call it what you like. Obviously, I'm so focused on the ES here because of that high. That high is the most significant high I've ever seen in my life. Since 2008, that implies the auction has completed. Then it comes down to how bearish you want to get. What auction have they completed, mate? This auction, this auction, this auction. Have they completed, by they, we know who I'm talking about, this auction, or have they indeed completed this auction? And if you want to get really bearish, which I don't want to do, have they completed the entire super cycle, grand super cycle auction from here? Obviously, you can see problems. The ES has done something which I've never seen before, ever. And anyone who can read the ES, they also know that. Anyone who's got market profile knowledge would know that. Obviously, we don't teach market profile here because we take all the good bits from the market profile and we show you how to look at these charts properly so you can recognize the real highs from the fake highs, right? So you don't need to pay extra money for market profile, cumulative delta bars. A lot of that is largely useless. If you know how to decipher all that information, it can be seen on a candlestick chart. In fact, very, very easily. So that's the situation. That is my situation. That is my take on the ES. I'm still a little bit concerned. I mean, come on, does that really look like an impulsive count? I had a YouTube comment which basically said in the next 2 months we're going to make a new high. Right? So I'm assuming this is that particular YouTube subscriber. I'm guessing this is what he's saying. He's saying that the ABC down was a fall. Well, that's a bit of hopium right there, I think. Right, so that's the ES there. So Some good learning there. If you want to know more, take the masterclass. Now, I mean, how can anyone say that the yearly top is not in? Look how much of a move down that is. And that looks pretty deadly anyway. That looks quite impulsive. Forget about a double zigzag. You can just count 5 straight into there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's just doing a B. Once again, it's usually in threes. That's just the first leg. Second leg, some BS correction. Next thing you know, we're down here again, and as you can see, we've got alerts as low as 365. Nvidia, I won't tell you where the group are buying, but once again, this is short term. Purely short term, all of this. I mean, look at that. We've pretty much drawn it out. Is it going to make a new high this year? No. What's it doing? A technical correction. That's very normal. How low is it going to go? Well, I think this year you'll be able to pick up Nvidia far lower than this low right here. Is that really impulsive? I don't think so. This is where most people lose a lot of money, in these very convincing B legs. So that's a lot that we've covered there. Covered the Qs, Nvidia. Obviously, if you want to know more, just join the group. Everything's there. If you want to pay via crypto, we're taking payments in crypto too. Just message me through the Facebook page. Now, what do we make of this? Well, number one, it's a very volatile situation. It's a very volatile market. This is 70 times smaller than the stock market, so it's a lot easier to move. How anyone could have held through that just to now break even is beyond me. We've done really well. So well done to crypto, right? We were thinking before inverse correlation, then it became positive. Now it's slightly going along with the stock market. My concern, however, is the ES, as I've said many times. I still think there's another flush down. Now, is that positively correlated? Is it negatively correlated? Well, historically, they've been positively correlated, and Bitcoin usually leads. Bitcoin never confirmed the ES's new high 3 weeks ago. That automatically made me very concerned. Once it formed a proper high, I was like, right, that's it, time to leg it. I don't know, what do the YouTube audience make of this? Is that a positive correlation that you're seeing there still? Historically, that was the case. I'm saying the ES has got one more big flush down, potentially to an intraday ES gap, huge intraday ES gap of 34 points. That is gigantic gap. That is a huge gap. You would never normally see a gap as big as that on an intraday basis. Friday to Sunday night open, that's a bit different. You might very well see a big gap if there's been some BS news over the weekend, but not on an intraday basis. Never even bothered for 1 second to fill the gap. Are we going 4,600 here? People should spend more time looking at the ES than the SPY and the SPX, because it doesn't necessarily give you all the information. Anyway, what do we make of this? Well, obviously there was a buying opportunity which we took full advantage for. Personally, I'm still on a bit of a cautious kind of stance, because if that positive correlation, which historically has been the case, does that mean this is going to happen, right? I don't think it's as clear cut, unfortunately, in crypto. And my concern, once again, is always going to be the stock market way more than it is crypto, because it's a $70 trillion market. Now, I'm seeing this all over YouTube, this broadening wedge idea, which, fantastic. It definitely works, but is the context right for that? If I pull up a volume profile, we've done really well. We've rejected off the value area low, which is very normal. But we've not reclaimed the value. Price wants to get back into the value where one standard deviation of the volume is. Yet the market doesn't allow it to get back there. So what does that mean? If we flip that exact level, 61,780, and it stabilizes there, absolutely we can make a run towards 72k. But I think as a minimum, anyone long or short Bitcoin right now should have two interpretations. The first interpretation is literally topped right here, right now, and certainly a message to the Facebook group about 5 hours ago basically said, legging it, good luck to you. So we were long Solana, Pepe, and a couple of meme coins. People can choose to do what they like. At the end of the day, it's that kind of volatile market. You have to take what you can get. As a minimum, anyone who's gone long down here should really be shaving off that, I think, personally. Educational purposes, of course. Second interpretation, we've definitely bottomed, is just like Solano, A 335 into a B, and that was a 1 2 3 4 5 into here. and this broadening wedge nonsense is going to play out. From a volume perspective, it really has to flip 6160. If it flips the value area, it's showing price is getting accepted within the previous or in the entire volume profile. There's a good probability you can make it towards the value area high. What is the exact percentages? We discuss all of that on the masterclass. There's various ways to make money here. You don't only have to use Elliott wave. In fact, we give you over 95 different ways to make money. You have to kind of know everything. You can't only know volume profile all day long. You can't only know price action. You can't only know Elliott wave or fibs. You have to know everything, right? It's very, very important that you know everything, because the market has changed so much since 2008. That's why we've waited so long to release a masterclass. We released it about 2.5 years ago now. So well done to anyone who's bought it. They've completely changed their entire investing career around, frankly. Whether they were doing it as a side hustle or whatever, primary, whatever. Anyway, so that would be my take. I say it's best to be safe here on Bitcoin. It's not as clear cut, unfortunately. It's not as clear cut. I don't think you can 100% say this is making a new high this year. And it's because of the ES. My biggest concern is the ES. So you have to have two interpretations. If you want to know more, then just come and join the group. Now, yes, you can blag this as a diagonal. I mean, first of all, does that really look impulsive? No, that was an overnight low. Bit of a poor low down here. Yes, you can blag that as a diagonal, that into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Absolutely, you could say that that's a 3. So where would you be getting worried if you're bullish? Well, if this is your count, 4 can't cross into the territory of 1. Obviously it can't, right? Because that's against the rule of Elliott wave, right? You can't have 4 doing this. So, if it breaks 57980, you would have to say the impulsive count is over. Unless someone within the YouTube audience, maybe it's the same guy who's got a opinion that the S&P is making a new high in the next 4 weeks. Surely if it breaks 57980, you'd have to go against that bearish opinion. So it's not clear cut, and it's not clear cut because of the ES. If the ES was at 4600, filling that entire gap, which I've just seen now, by the way, I was thinking 4800. I did not even see that gap. I've never seen an ES intraday gap that big. That's just ridiculous. Maybe that is indeed where it is going. Then it would be different. But the S&P's at 5300. It's still got a long, long way to go. Every 100 points on the S&P is huge. Most people are positioned bearish here. Most smart money is positioned bearish. We know where smart money is positioned. We know that the ES made a real high. We have access to this data, which we share with group members. Do you know where smart money are positioned in crypto, in ES, in corn futures, soybean futures, oil futures? We have access to all that information. We teach all of it on the masterclass for those independent learners, for those looking for more group access, where we cover it and discuss the charts twice a week at least. Come and join the group. Smart money is short the ES, and they have been short for a very long time. That and the ES making a real high, that's enough to be concerned. So, is the bearish count invalidated if we break 58k? Surely it's looking pretty thin. What is the bullish? Well, that is the bullish count, right? So if it breaks 58k, surely that's the bullish count over, and we're going to retest these lows, right? Just like everyone was saying in March 2020, retest the lows when we called one of the greatest bottoms in human history. That's all we do here. There's a 10% discount code on the masterclass, Mankind. Use it while you can, because it's running away soon. If it's an ABC, what does that mean? This is a gigantic, sneaky trap. So what does that mean? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we made it as high as the 0.618 as well. Well, there you go then. Are we on the log chart? Let's just make sure on the logs, right? I know you can take fibs off the linear chart, but we generally log. Where you use linear and log, we discussed that on the masterclass. But for all intents and purposes, generally speaking, we're on the log. But there are caveats to that, which we discuss on the masterclass, where you have to change to a linear chart or linear fibs. But for right now, for all intents and purposes, assume I'm always on log. Right, we've done the bullish count. Looking pretty thin. Broadening wedge. How in the hell can a broadening wedge be bullish right at the top of a market cycle? I'm not too sure, but hey, that's YouTube. What would be the devastating count? That's unbelievable. Yeah, all of that was a sneaky. Now, if that is a sneaky ABC, what that implies is Bitcoin should fall very, very violently from here. I'm talking 2 seconds after this video is released. First of all, it should break 58k. And then it should continue going all the way lower. I think Solano's had a huge move. I've got to be honest, I don't like the low on Solano. I don't like the fact many of the altcoins have not followed, and the low on Solano is poor. It's definitely a poor low. It was not formed in a proper way. That worries me. If this is indeed the count, that's a devastating collapse there on Bitcoin. So, are you bullish? Are you bearish? That's for the YouTube audience to sort of try to decipher the charts. Yes, is it messy? Absolutely. No one's denying that. Because if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, I have no idea how anyone would count this. That is an absolute mess. But mess aside, we have to try our best to try to decipher how low this is going. Obviously, if that rolls over like the ES, let's say I'm right on the ES and it gets to 4,800, call it 46, and it fills the gap. You know, what does that mean for this? Surely 30k. I've got targets here, as you know, and you know, worst case scenario, let's just put it out there. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but that is a huge expanded flat. It's going to go 15k. I'm not saying that's going to happen. So I would be very careful in crypto. There's a whole load going over there on the yen, on the stock market. I think everyone should stay focused on that. Things like Nvidia, Apple. I mean, what has Apple done? I mean, I've called an eternity top. You know, that's a very long time eternity. People don't want to be fresh out of college. You know, they got a 50k probate check because their favorite boomer, you know, has taken a dirt nap and the lawyer sent him over 50k. If you've just received a 50k probate check, why not take the masterclass? Even if you took all of these courses for a full year, you're still up $49,000. Likely you'll double that within a month anyway. So you're up, I don't know, $98,000. So people have taken their probate checks and they've gone straight into Apple. I don't know who I feel sorry for. Well, I know who I feel sorry for. The ones who have bought this top. That's a very long time eternity. You know, I can't put a time on that, but it's at least, you know, I don't know, 1 trillion years. That's a very long time. It's like an infinite amount of time. So if something has formed an infinite top, why would you be long? It's like the ES. Well, it's not like the ES. Let's hope. Let's hope the ES hasn't topped forever, because then it's going 666. We have huge problems there. But what I will say is what I said at the start of the video. The ES has formed one of the most significant highs that I've ever seen, bar none. Full stop, period, the end. You know, that's a long time eternity, right? I mean, let's say you put in 50k probate check. I mean, you're already down, like, I mean, how much is that? I mean, after lawyer fees and paying Goldman Sachs 16%, what, you're down to about 32 grand now. Why would you do that? Why not just join the group? Much better spent probate check. Apple's got huge problems here. I think this is going to go to about 50.